Welcome back, everybody, to the No Such Thing as a Fish Comic Relief Marathon. We just had a really lovely moment with Tim Minchin at the end there, where he played us a little extract from Groundhog Day. He did that, and he was here, as have been all of our other guests, in support of this fine charity, Comic Relief. That's what we're trying to raise money for tonight and this morning in the UK. If you haven't donated yet, please can we ask you to dip into your pockets and do so. We're doing so well. We've raised £83,000 at the moment. The donations are coming in. Gareth Ford, thank you so much for your donation. Torben Sco, Andrew Wright, sorry. Just so many great donations. We really, truly appreciate it. And we would love to hit our target. Usually, if we were clever, we would have done something like, we won't let Tim play a song unless we raise £5,000 more. Could we retroactively ask you to pay for the ability to have already heard him? That would be really great. If you can't spare anything, that would be awesome. So we're now going to move on to our creator, our overlord, the man who brought us all together, without whom No Such Thing as a Fish absolutely never would have existed, neither would QI, and I dare say it, most of British comedy. He is the producer of Blackadder. He is the producer of Spitting Image, Not the 9 O'Clock News. He's done radio shows like co-writing episodes of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy with Douglas Adams, with whom he also co-wrote 2 books, Meaning of Lift and Deeper Meaning of Lift. The guy is the godfather of comedy production. It is Mr. John Lloyd. Woo! Yay! Welcome. Hi, boss.
John, we're not coming in on Monday.
It's been amazing. It's been such an epic journey. Fantastic.
Thank you for being here as well.
People.
Yeah, it has been amazing. So let's do it. Let's get into fact number 26. And that is John Lloyd.
Okay, so my fact is that the steam engine and the railway were both invented by the ancient Greeks, but it never occurred to them to put one on top of the other.
Wow.
Okay, so I bring this up because it's one of the very earliest QI facts. So when QI started, it was just an idea, didn't even have a name really. And it was an epiphany for me because I discovered, as somebody who'd got to be 42, amazing number, thinking that I knew stuff. I suddenly woke up one day on Christmas Eve, 1993, and I thought, I don't know anything at all. I don't know how an atom works. I don't know what a galaxy is really. I'm an ignoramus. And it was a horrible shock. And so I started collecting all these things that I ought to know about, but I didn't. So the steam engine was invented by a guy called Heron, more than 2,000 years ago in Alexandria, which was then part of the ancient Greek sort of diaspora in Egypt. And it was a kind of metal cylinder, sort of circular thing, which you could fill with water and heat. And it had 2 arms sticking out in different directions, like a kind of swastika, really. And as you heated the water in the cylinder, it began to spin on an axis, and steam came out of 2 different directed arms, and it spun round.
Cool.
And people thought, this is amazing.
What did they use it for?
It was just a toy, really. It was just a curiosity, like a conversation piece. And people come from miles around and go, this is amazing. This thing spins around and goes, shh.
Shame it's bloody useless, but yeah, it looks nice.
Yeah. And Heron, or Hero, was an extraordinary guy, mathematician, inventor, also invented the windmill, which he did apply to, or somebody else applied after him to do actual work, to pump water and so forth. Mm-hmm. And the slot machine was the other thing he invented.
Really?
The vending machine, where you put a coin into a slot and would dispense holy water out of a little Out.
So
Really?
that's like a vending machine, as opposed to like a slot machine where you put a coin in and
we
when
win
you get...
holy water. You win. You get the jackpot. It just comes gushing out. Yeah.
So would you see the holy water through? Would it be like body of Christ, holy water? What do I need for my communion?
Melons.
Yeah.
So, in the meantime, many years before, thousands of years before, the Greeks had also invented the railway. But this wasn't for trains; it was for boats, and it was a stone paved thing with wooden rails, and it was called a diolkos, and it was to have a kind of land canal, if you like. In Greece, as you probably remember if you've been there, there's a long, bumpy bit called the Peloponnesos, which is a big sort of isthmus with three long prongs at the bottom of it. And it can be very windy down there. And when ships were coming from the Ionian Sea, sort of Italy, to the Aegean, towards Turkey, they'd have to go around this long journey down the Peloponnesos. And instead of that, across the Isthmus of Corinth, we go along Gulf of Corinth. There's a tiny little thing like the Isthmus of Panama, little thin bit of land, which blocks the sea passage. So in order to shorten the passage, they built this little railway across the Isthmus of Corinth, and they would load the boats onto the railway in the Ionian Sea and drag them by hand or by pack animal across this little narrow thing and then put them back into the sea again.
The log flume, I think. Isn't that... They invented the log flume bit where they tow you up before they drop you down.
That's where the Corinth Canal is now, right? That little thing. I was there earlier this year or last year, and there's the most amazing thing. It's got a bridge for cars to go over, obviously, but then it's also a canal for boats to go. And it's, rather than lifting like a normal bridge, the bridge just sinks underneath the water to the very bottom of the canal. The boats can go over the top of it and then it comes back up again. That's amazing.
That's so clever.
So cool.
You don't want to have broken down on that bridge when
Yeah, wow. So they had the railway and they had the steam engine, but they didn't put one on top of the other. What would have happened if they had it done?
Well, this is the thing. Arnold Toynbee, the great British historian who died in the 70s, wrote this wonderful essay about Alexander the Great, who drank himself to death in 323 BC.
No more worlds to conquer.
Yeah. So extraordinary general. And he speculated that if Alexander the Great hadn't been a sort of alcoholic and ruined his life after this amazing conquest, and if Hero of Alexandria had thought, the Diolkos, if I put the steam engine on the Diolkos and put wheels on it, we could have a transport system that could carry Greek armies all over the world in a twinkling. And that if the Greeks had done that, the Roman Empire would have never existed because they'd have already conquered the whole of Italy, whole of Europe, in fact, with this amazing transport system. And that basically we would be speaking Greek today. They would have been a world empire. And the religion of the Greeks would have been Pythagoreanism. Pythagoras, Buddha, and Confucius, one of the three great religions of the world, were all alive almost exactly the same time. Pythagoras famously traveled all over the world, he went to Egypt, possibly even to India. And Pythagoreanism was very like Buddhism, a kind of non-theistic kind of philosophy about kindness and living in the moment and all this kind of thing. And the idea was that you'd have this Greek civilization based on world railways, and believing in Pythagoras as the Buddha of the culture. And Toynbee writes of this anonymous kind of failed prophet whose words fell on stony ground, who lived at 4 railway cuttings, Nazareth. A complete rewrite of history. It's a wonderful essay.
Yeah, oh, that's great.
And also because Pythagoreans never ate beans, did they? So that would be Heinz wouldn't exist.
And that Monty Python sketch would have been much shorter. What did the Romans ever do for us? Well, I mean, really, it was nothing. Yeah. Wow.
Oh, it's such a nice.
So I bring this up because it's relevant to fish. Because there was a list of facts when I was trying to raise money to start QI back in the late 1990s and early 2000s. I had a list of facts that I used to try and hawk around to people, one of which was there's no such thing as a fish. I found in an encyclopedia called the Oxford Encyclopedia of Underwater Life, which blew me away, as it did you. And there's... I think, what have I got in this? I've got this original list that I...
oh, wow.
Really?
So we should consider all of these as alternative titles for the podcast. We could have been called The Steam Engine and the Railway were both invented by the ancient Greeks, but it never occurred to them to put one on top of the other, which I think is a good name.
It wouldn't have fit on our branding, would it?
That's true. John, give us some more.
But because you're so good, some of these things are now not true. And now, in those days, they were thought to be true, or I thought they were true, but they're now not. So the Lithuanian god of thunder was called Perkins.
That's good.
Duke Ellington's piano teacher was called Marietta Clinkscales. This is certainly true. 134 people died of the plague in 1988. I mean, that's kind of strange.
Wow.
Topical.
Very odd.
Yeah.
That plague is still going today. Modern models remove wrinkles around their eyes by rubbing hemorrhoid cream on them.
Yeah.
You heard that? I'm sure you've heard that. I think that.
No, I don't remember it.
I really want to see what you're reading off, and I'm hoping it's sort of an old papyrus. Tea-stained old.
Printed.
It is, yeah.
Does it remove wrinkles around your bottom then, hemorrhoid cream, but just you don't ever see it?
It does for me, Andy.
I think it's what do you call that stuff? It's a steroid, isn't it? Hemorrhoid cream. So it would, yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, so I was just thinking, this is an amazing thing you've done here. It really is the most epic, extraordinary thing I've watched with all these fantastic people from all the world. And here you are, still awake. It's extraordinary. Have you not had a drink yet? Are you having a drink at...
No.
Drink on the last fact. Yeah.
Apparently, everyone's been watching us saying that we're drinking way too much, but we're basically just lubricating our throats, right? Just to make sure we don't lose them. It's turned into a drinking game on the YouTube clip. Dan's having a sip again.
I've been watching that. It's extraordinary. But I'm
guys, if people thought we'd been honestly drinking alcohol for the last however many hours,
it would explain quite a lot over the last 2 or 3 hours.
But I'm sort of thinking in this sort of historic moment, really, thinking back to those innocent days in the early 2000s when I remember when I sent the pilot script, which I wrote, because you elves weren't around when QI started. No. Me and John Mitchinson wrote the whole of the first 6 episodes on our own, it was insane. I mean, it was a completely mad venture. The whole thing was... We couldn't sell it to BBC One, where we originally wanted to sell QI, because I went to see the controller and she said, "You get points for being interesting, not for being right." I mean, how would that work? How would we know who'd won? It's like,
we're still trying to work that out.
Thinking, and I faxed, just shows how long ago it is. I faxed the pilot script to Stephen Fry at home, and he was back within the hour saying, "Lloydie, this is nuts. This is completely weird. I've never seen anything like this before." I remember one of the facts was what was the Victorians tried to cure by blowing? Oh yes, they tried to save people from drowning by blowing smoke up their bottoms. Remember that?
Yeah.
I'm thinking the world that I've grown up in is not true. Everything about it is wrong. Everything is completely upside down.
Yeah.
It was so exciting.
I loved when I first saw the pilot or the first episode of QI. I can't remember which one it was now. There was a fact in it which was, so we know that Arthur's sword was called Excalibur.
Yeah.
But what was his lance called? And it was Ron. And I just thought Excalibur and Ron, and what QI did in that moment for me was made me realize you've got this big thing that we all know here, but just to the left or right next door is this extra funny thing which will just make everything better in life when you learn that. And that's sort of what the genius, I guess, of what you did in that initial pilot.
You spotted Ron knocking at the door.
You spotted Ron.
Yeah.
For me, it's all about Ron.
Dan, you had a fact ages ago, Dan, which is that there were Knights of the Round Table who were called Lancelot and Galahad and Gawain and Gareth.
And Gareth.
Sir Gareth, just at the far end of the round table.
He never got into the portraits, did he? A little bit more to the right, Gareth. Yeah.
Oh,
you're out.
No, it's the chavs of the round table, isn't it? And Lee.
Yeah.
But also, we also managed to do something which, as QI, we haven't done since the beginning, which was Michael Palin was meant to be the original host of QI. And he hasn't yet been on QI, and he hasn't yet been on Museum of Curiosity. So it felt really nice that you were able to give him a call and say, would you mind doing this with Fish? And he said yes. We finally had our little intro moment, I hope, with Palin.
He very nearly wasn't on Fish due to the technical difficulties at the
start. He was on, but he couldn't hear him. Yeah, it's kind of closure for me, actually, because I've known Mike forever. And as you know, I asked him to be the Stephen Fry role, the chairman of QI, right at the beginning. And when he said no, I was bereft. And I went back to the production office at Talkback, and I told the research team, we can't get Mike Palin. And we all went to the pub and got drunk because we thought the whole project was over. 2002. And then years later, I bumped into Mike at Peter Cook's wife's funeral in Hampstead. And I said, we went out for lunch afterwards, and it was, very sad. And as often with funerals, a great celebration of a life. I said, Mike, would you come on Museum of Curiosity at some point? And he goes, no. And I said, wow, well, why not? And he goes, well, why? He said, I've got a nice life. What would I want to go on the road for? I said, there's no answer to that, is there? But he's such a great guy, Mike.
It was so wonderful chatting to him. It's such a nice guy.
He's so ridiculously nice. And I remember saying to him once, he was going on about how he liked somebody so much. And I said, well, yeah, but Mike, you like everyone. There's kind of like not much of an endorsement, really. I said, you're just so ridiculously nice. He said, I have a dark side. I said, well, what is it, Mike? He said, well, I'm not going to tell you, but I do have one. I do.
He's always, every interview he does, he says, I'm not a national treasure. I can be really mean. I'm really vicious. And we didn't see any evidence of that. I was really looking as well.
He really had the chance to as well, didn't he?
We gave him several moments to. Didn't you say he once was asked to trash a hotel, John, when he and Python were on tour?
Yeah, famously, the manager was really looking forward to Python were huge in the States, bigger than they've ever been here, really. And they did this amazing tour. It's a bit like you guys. I mean, I've seen you live. It's like you're like the Beatles. It's ridiculous. People screaming in Stockholm. I remember when they screamed all the way through your act. I couldn't hear any of the jokes. Python were a bit like that. And so the manager of the hotel comes, so, okay, guys, trash the room, trash the room. Because when they trashed the room, it got in the papers. So the hotel got fantastic publicity. So they didn't. So Michael Palin very politely went into the bathroom in their suite and broke a toothbrush.
I reckon that takes some doing. They're quite sturdy, those toothbrushes. You need a dark side to be able to do that, I reckon.
He's incredibly strong, but he never uses his strength really. That's the famous thing about him. The Hulk.
Well, just a quick update. So we're sitting on the brink of £85,000. We're on 84,928. So if anyone is watching, can you please tip us over into the 85 section of the race to 100? We're getting a lot of really generous donations. Thank you so much, everyone. Claire, thank you for your donation. Mark C. I love Anna. I suppose the rest of you guys are cool too.
Well, I have to donate at some point, so
we're getting so many nice messages, and John, you very kindly gave some money to this earlier, yesterday morning. So thank you so much for that. But yeah, we want to. While John is on, I want to tip us over to 85,000, and maybe John, you can do a little reward if we do that. Maybe I don't know.
What about that original list of facts? How can we? Get hold of that. That would be amazing.
Why not? We could get John to sign. So the next...
I'm ashamed because I was never as good at researching as you guys are, so they're horrible inaccuracies. I'm going to...
even better.
Yeah.
But it's I'm thinking back to 2009, the year I started the... so Stephen Fry rings up and he says, have you heard of this thing called Twitter? And I go, no, what is that? And he said, well, it's a kind of thing where you post facts about things online. And I had a look and I thought, this is ridiculous. People go on about privacy and they're actually telling you about what they had for breakfast and what their pants look like and all this this is weird. But I thought it's perfect for what we do. Perfect for one-liners when it was only, 120 characters.
Yeah.
And so I started this thing and I became addicted to it. And, we had 500 followers or whatever. And then, you get 600 and 610. And I stay up all night doing this thing. And on Comic Relief Day 2009, I said, okay, for every new follower, I will give £1 to Comic Relief, ending at midnight tonight. This is like at 6 o'clock in the evening. And so I thought, I get a couple of followers, £2. And then suddenly it gets around the internet. And fuck! This is like, I was going up hundreds of pounds. This is my money, not QI's. And I gave, I think it was £3,500. And at midnight it came out. I thought, what happens if it goes viral and I get 1 million followers? What I do? I can't.
If Stephen retweets it. Yeah.
Yeah. The only time you're just asking people, don't retweet this. Please stop your feed.
Oh, well, hey, we've gone over 85. It's happened. 85,150. That's a beautiful job. And we didn't even fully reveal what we would give away. We half revealed it. I think that'd be fun. Just that sheet of paper you have there, John, because there may be inaccuracies on it, but as you say, this is what brought QI about. Doesn't matter what's on that page. It's those magical combinations of words that you hawked around that led to this being what it is now. So I don't know how we can do this. Maybe someone at Comic Relief can give us some advice, but we could say the next 15 people or in the next 2 minutes we'll pick out of a hat and we'll send you a thing. But I don't know the mechanics of it.
Don't know the legalities of that.
I don't know the legalities. I don't know.
I think we should reward the people of Chelmsford, who are the most inspirational people for me, because I was brought up 9 miles from Chelmsford in Essex. And before QI was a thing, before it was even a name, there were 6 friends of mine. We had an email group, and we used to email each other every few days with interesting facts we'd found out. And we had a thing called the Quite Boring Challenge, which is to nominate something about which nothing interesting was or could be known. And I started the ball rolling with Chelmsford because I'd been there a lot, and it wasn't apparently a very interesting town. And after a week, we had the most extraordinary 4 pages of information on Chelmsford. And I'll give you one example. At that time, the Chelmsford had the largest burns unit in Europe in its hospital, a really extraordinary burns unit. And the MP for Chelmsford West at that time was called Simon Burns. And I thought, nice. Rather neat.
Yeah.
And one of the people in the group had been at Oxford with Simon Burns. And because Simon was, even in those days, quite interested in politics and did a lot of debating and things, he didn't get a very good degree. In fact, he got a third. So he was known in the House of Commons as third-degree Burns. And we told this. Stephen told this years later when the show became a thing. Stephen told this joke on QI, and it got round, and it ruined Simon Burns' life. Poor man. He became that forever. So thank you, Chelmsford. And it's an amazing place, Chelmsford. One of Marconi's radio started in Chelmsford. It was the capital of England around in the 14th century. An amazing town. Nothing is boring, guys, as you know.
So we'll deliver a signed copy of John's facts to all the people of Chelmsford coming through your door.
We'll fax it over. We'll do it the old school way. Fax you a copy. Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm trying to think, and it's one of those things where it's quite nice hearing you talk about your favorite facts, because it does make you sort of go, oh, what are my favorite facts? You know, we've been doing this. We just turned 7 years old as a podcast on March 8th. And I mean, it's extraordinary. We've been going for 7 years now. But we have said so many wonderful things in those times. And one of my favorites, I have to say, is it's a Carl Sagan fact that I did when we were on an American tour, which was that Carl Sagan spent 2 years suing Apple Computers for calling him a butthead. It's just, he really took against it, and he just spent years and years doing it. I just love that. Carl Sagan in a battle over butthead. Just wonderful.
I've just had a text from Richard Curtis, who must have been up all night. He's amazing. Let's have a shout out for Dick Curtis. What an amazing guy for
extraordinary.
Starting. Yeah. I mean, and what an amazing achievement in life.
So much good to have done the world.
Yeah.
Can't wait to speak to him. He's going to be carrying us to the finish line.
He is. What do you say?
I'm just going to go back to some of these extraordinary facts. This is another one that was also on the show, but I read a whole book about crocodiles and alligators, crocodilians they're called, to discover this fact that a crocodile's jaws, to close, have the force of a truck falling off a cliff, because, you know, they can bite a hippopotamus in half, literally. But to open, they don't need much except to be able to lift their nose out of the water. So if you can get close enough to a crocodile, you can keep its jaws shut with one hand or an ordinary rubber band. And I remember reading that thing and thinking, the world has gone pear-shaped. What has happened here? And it happened the next weekend. We had a friend round who was a vet. And he said, but John, everyone knows that. No, they don't. No, they don't.
That's actually why postmen, they drop rubber bands around as they finish with them on their route. It's in case of crocodiles. They just want to make sure that there's safety.
That's also why the crocodile clip was invented, wasn't it? To keep their mouths closed.
Yeah. Oh God, that's so cruel. Defeating them with their own selves. Your fact reminded me of one of my favourite facts, which I don't think we've ever mentioned, but another invention that was never put to its obvious use. So the Incas invented the wheel. So they didn't know about, the wheel of the West. The Incas invented the wheel, and they never used it on anything except toys either. Which, given the wheel is the gold standard of inventing.
Yeah, I wonder what people will look back in 1,000 years and say, oh, in 2020 they had hot air balloons and they had Laser Quest, but they never put the two together, did they?
Yeah.
They had marmalade and they had fidget spinners, and now our entire society is based on marmalade.
What a bunch of idiots.
John, we're going to have to wrap up with you. It feels like we've only just started talking, but that's always the case when we talk to you. You can talk for, I think John and I had a phone call the other week, which when we hung up had lasted 4 hours, 52 minutes.
Yes. How much money did you make for Comic Relief?
Nothing. But thank you, John. Thank you so much,
guys,
for being here. And thank you, everyone who donated in that section as well. Let's see where we're up to. £86,244. Thank you, everyone. We want more though, so keep giving it, and we're gonna try and convince you to give more if you're able to. So in the meantime, we're gonna cut to a break. So thank you, John. And when we come back, we're gonna be joined by a bona fide Hollywood star. It's Carrie Mulligan.
Yay!
Oh my days!
Amazing.
See you in a bit. Hey everybody, we hope you enjoyed watching that video from our 20-hour-long No Such Thing as a Fish comic relief marathon. There are plenty more videos to watch, but before you watch them, we're going to ask you to donate to the cause that we did this for. Go to the link below and you will be sent to comicrelief.com/fish, where you can donate and help change lives. Donate now.